Brilliant. Hi, thank you so much for joining us, Brian, and
Very
thank
welcome.
you for agreeing to do this podcast. As I said, you've been a fantastic supporter of the project in the past, and doing our advanced talks on our advanced training and safeguarding. So we're really, really grateful for your time today.
Thank you, Diane. Very, very happy to be here.
Brilliant, thank you. So first of all, I'd just like to start for those people who sort of don't know too much about your organisation and what you do. If you could just tell us a little bit about the aims and sort of how you go about supporting women in crisis, really.
Okay, so I work for the National Centre for Domestic Violence, otherwise known as NCDV. We've been in existence for about 18 years now, and we help victims in domestic abuse or domestic violence situations to gain injunctions against their abusers. So, and it's not only about married people or people who are in a relationship with a partner. It's also around family members. So you can get these injunctions against parents, against children, against grandparents, against uncles, against mother-in-law. So it's the whole range of families who you can get these orders against. And what we do and our whole reason for being is to make sure that finances isn't a blocker for somebody getting the help and protection they need. So everything that we provide is for free to the end user. So we'll help them get the 3 different orders we help people get are non-molestation orders, occupation orders, and prohibited steps orders, which is all about trying to put that protective bubble around a victim to stop their abuser basically carrying on affecting their lives negatively.
Hopefully we can go into a little bit more about the specifics as to which that would apply to what person, but we can go into that. But brilliant, thanks for that, Brian. So obviously at the start of COVID-19 pandemic, we saw sort of a huge rise. We saw sort of the national picture of cases in domestic violence, and especially at the start of the lockdown. But actually what's really interesting is that that's not really changed much. So I was reading recently about Refuge, and they've recently reported sort of visits to their website increasing tenfold, and in the past 2 weeks they've actually have calls to their helpline increased by 66%. And so I was just wondering, sort of, have you seen those sort of numbers being consistent or going up, or actually have they gone down since lockdown?
So yes, for us definitely there's been a rise, and I suppose that's twofold in that more people are coming to us to get help and support, which is great, but I think that does, the underlying trend is that there's an increase in the level of domestic violence. I suppose an example is this time last year we were maybe getting maybe 250 to 300 orders per week.
Wow.
So they were individuals that we were helping to get orders. Now that number has grown even since this time last year, but as soon as we hit lockdown, it has gone up massively. Most weeks now we are somewhere around about 500 per week that orders that we're gaining. And I think again underlying that is we need to speak to the person who is the victim in this case, and so we need to find out what's happening. We need to take a statement from them over the phone. So the reality of lockdown initially was very difficult for people to do, because often their safe place was out of the house, was when they went to work, when they took the children to school, when they went to the shops, and that was the time that we could speak to them, or when their abuser was out the house when they were at work. So with people being furloughed and there being no escape from the abuse in the house, that made it difficult for us to engage with people, or for them to have the space to engage with us. But we've managed to overcome it. And like I say, yes, our numbers of orders we're getting each day has gone up massively. We've put lots of background work in place to make sure that we can cope with that increased demand. So anybody who needs help, we can help them, and we'll make sure we'll do it.
Absolutely, because there's this idea out there that exists in the community where, obviously COVID-19 is going on, but actually services are at a standstill and people aren't supporting, but actually everything is working as normal, and actually more so now because people and organisations are more aware, I think, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair to the whole justice system, they're very quick in being flexible around court proceedings, for example. So rather than a person having to go to court to get an order, the courts very quickly set up video conferencing. So people would dial in, solicitors and victims who are applying for orders. I also work for NCDV as a process server. So I, right at the very end of the process, where an order is served on an abuser, that's the job that I've been doing for NCDV for the past 3.5 years. And again, the courts put a clause in saying that that didn't have to be done in person. So I could do it. I could do it over the phone. I could do it via email. So again, there wasn't that issue around social distancing and me leaving the house. So the courts have been very agile, and the whole process has run differently, but on the whole, very smoothly.
Actually, that's really reassuring for victims, actually, because if they think that this process is going to be held up in any way, it's just another deterrent, isn't it, for them to seek that help?
Absolutely, and it also takes that fear away of you might have to face your abuser in court. Most of the cases that we take on, over 90%, we go to court to try and get an order unopposed, so without the abuser knowing what's going on. So a victim won't have to face their abuser in court, not even over the telephone line if we're doing video conferencing, and it's only afterwards, if there's an appeal against the order being granted, when the abuser may be invited to the hearing, if they want to go. Most of them don't challenge it. So again, that shouldn't be a blocker for people trying to get the help. The fear that they're going to have to stand in front of their abuser and be cross-examined.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really good information to get out there, actually. So I just wanted to go through the process, actually. So let's just imagine that you've got somebody who's in a crisis and they're really desperate and they need a way out, they need a solution, and they're thinking, okay, what will happen when someone calls you? So, and how quickly will victims of abuse get some kind of respite or a resolution to what they're going through? Because that's always the fear, isn't it? You know, nothing's going to come of it. So yeah, so what actually happens when someone calls?
Okay, so if somebody gets in contact with us, and you can do that very easily, so through our, if somebody looks on our website, ncdv.org.uk, all the contact details are there. So there's a phone number you can contact by text, you can contact by email, and we'll phone you back. And someone from our first steps team will make contact initially and do a bit of a case assessment. So the very first question they'll ask is it safe to speak? When's a good time we can talk, and maybe set an appointment up when that person, that their abuser isn't near them, so they can actually talk. And then we'll ask some questions to see if we can hit the criteria in the Family Law Act to be able to get an order. So we'll ask them some questions about what's happening, what's the relationship with this person, how long's it been going on, what is the level of, and it's not always violence, it can be domestic abuse, it can be coercive control, it can be that person who just puts you down all the time and doesn't let you see your friends, and always tells you what to wear. All of that sort of controlling behaviour all comes under the criteria we can get an order. So once we've built up that all that knowledge, then we would look to book a time that we can take a statement over the phone with that person. Statement might take a couple of hours. So obviously during lockdown, this has been challenging to find that time for somebody to do a statement. But if we do it in 10-minute slots, so you know, we book 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and we'll get that done as quick as we can. We'll assign a solicitor, or what's called a Mackenzie friend, who is somebody who can help and support somebody through the court process. We will do all the paperwork. We'll send it out to the solicitor or the Mackenzie friend. The person who's applying for the order then goes to court, or as it happens now, video conference with the court. Once the order is granted, we will get it served on the abuser. Now, our target time for all of that is 24 hours. So
Wow.
it's a challenging target. We do it most of the time. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it has made it more challenging, mainly around getting statements from people. The actual court process, assigning a solicitor and serving the order on the abuser, that's still going ahead as quick as we possibly can. But it is getting access to somebody to take a statement. Sometimes that is what delays things.
Well, actually, one of the things I remember when I contacted you to come and do some guest speaking on some of my training is that, you know, the one thing that I picked up is that it's so quick, and you guys are so good at, you know, getting getting things done within that time frame, and naturally expect things to take a little bit longer, but it's still good that you're sort of keeping that as a target to get things moving. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, very, very, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Brilliant. So, I mean, most important for me is always what you, just to pick up about what you said about the sort of emotional abuse. And I think sometimes when we think about domestic violence and we're thinking about orders, we're not really thinking about the coercive control. We're not thinking about the emotional abuse. We're not thinking about that consistent, putting someone down and making someone feel bad, making someone feel threatened, making them feel scared. And actually, that is a form of abuse. And I think a lot of the time that's happening and people aren't recognizing that that is actually something that they don't need to go through.
Diana, absolutely. And I think often the longer it goes on, the more a person, it becomes their norm. And in some ways that makes it harder to break out of, because it's just what they're used to. But any sort of abuse in a relationship, we can help. So we can get injunctions to stop that person abusing you, to hopefully take those first steps to get this person out of your life and put some safeguards and some protection around you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to go into that a little bit. So you said that there was 3 different types of orders, didn't you? So the first one was around making sure that that person doesn't come near you or your home or your family, and if they come into a certain distance, then they'll be arrested, right?
That's it. That's correct. So it's called a non-molestation order, and that's around controlling people's behaviour. So it's around people. So let's say, for example, I'm the abuser and I'm abusing my partner or my ex-girlfriend. Although I would point out it's not exclusively males who are abusing females. Often it's the other way around. And non-molestation orders you can get against. I can get one against my son, against my father, against my grandfather, against my father-in-law. So it's not just about getting orders against men who are abusing women. We cover everything. So the non-molestation order, if my partner takes out a non-molestation order against me, that controls my behaviour in relation to her. So it might say that I can't contact her in person, on the phone, any social media, so WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. And it'll also put in limits as to where I can be in relation to her. So I might say I can't go to the home address. I can't go to the place where she works. I can't go to the school where the children go to. It might also include places she goes to regularly. So it might be a church, might be the gym that she goes to every day. And generally, we'll look for an exclusion zone around the area as well. So we'll say, the order will say, you can't go to the home address and you can't go to within 400 meters of the home address. So for that person who's the victim, who has been subjected to this person having a negative effect on their life, it just puts in that bubble, that protective bubble. And you're quite right in that if to take out a non-molestation order, it's under the Family Law Act. So it's not a criminal offence unless the abuser breaches that order. If they breach it, then it is an arrestable offence. Since 2007, the law changed, so it's now an arrestable offence. So that means that person, as long as the order's in place and the person has been served the order properly, which are 2 things that the police would need to prove, which is quite simple. If the person is in breach of it, they're liable to arrest. They go to the criminal court. They can be sentenced to up to 5 years imprisonment. So actually, once it's in place, it's quite a powerful bit of legislation if it's then breached.
Yeah, and actually it's even more reassuring for the victim. So that's brilliant. And I think it's really important as well to send out that message to people that like we said, during this pandemic, nothing has changed. The support is still out there. There's financial support. That's the thing that people worry about, is that, I won't have the money for it, but actually victims who are suffering, this is all covered. I was just wanted you to explain a little bit about the whole sort of legal aid, because people still ask about that. And their first point of contact is always, when people ask me, is Citizens Advice Bureau, but you can offer that information as well, can't you?
Absolutely. So we are, I suppose, firstly, with a bit about contacts, we are linked with over 1,500 safeguarding agencies all around the country who we've either worked with or deliver this presentation to. So we can signpost victims to other help and support they might not even have thought of, that they didn't know existed. So that's definitely something we could do. When it comes to finances, this is the whole reason that NCDV started. Was the guy who started off, Steve Connor, he had a friend, she was a victim of domestic violence, but she couldn't afford to get a non-molestation order. So he was a law student at the time. He helped her get the order. He then went and finished his law degree, came out and started up NCDV. And our golden rule is we will never charge a victim a penny for anything that we do. So lack of finances, it will never be a blocker to us getting the help that people need. And it's not just people who don't have the money, but it's also people who are victims of financial control. Because again, it's not uncommon for somebody to have money in the bank, but their abuser won't let them have any of that money. So they haven't got a bank card, they've got no access to any of that money. That's not a problem. We will still do everything without charging them a penny. So if they're entitled to full legal aid, then that's quite straightforward. Then the legal aid board will pay for the whole process. If they're not entitled to legal aid and they can't afford it, we will do everything for them, and it won't cost them a penny. So we will assign a solicitor who will either do it as a pro bono job, so to do it for free, or we can assign a Mackenzie friend who are volunteers who do the whole process for free. We'll serve the order, and it won't cost the victim anything. So I suppose that the important message is, anyone out there who's thinking that they might need the help, but they don't think they can afford it, please contact us, because we will find a way to make sure that you get the help that you need, and it won't cost you anything.
Brilliant. And what I really want to do, hopefully at the end of this, Brian, is to put all of those details up on the VAC website. And just lastly, in terms of people accessing information and finding out about your organisation, how can they do that? How's the best way to get in contact with you?
So two options really. If we're just looking to signpost people to actually get help from us, then go onto our website. It's probably the easiest thing to do. So it's www.ncdv.org.uk. All the details are on there. There's a button that says refer direct, which you can click on and refer yourself. There's all the contact and phone numbers. There's a bit of information and history about us. For organisations who are looking to engage with us and want to know a bit more, then there's myself and 6 other trainers who cover the whole of England, and we, as I did with your group, which was a fantastic day, we go out and we deliver this presentation. So during this COVID-19 pandemic, we've been doing it remotely, so using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, and I would love to speak to some of the groups. I suppose my passion and my mission in this is trying to get the word out to as many people as I can that the help's there and what we can do for them. So if anyone does want me to speak to them, I would be delighted to do so. Diane, you've got all my details. I would say if they get in touch with you, please pass my details on, and I'll speak to anyone. I would love to.
Brilliant. And what I'll do, Brian, is I'll put all of that information on my webpage as well as this interview. And I'm really hoping in the not too distant future that we can resume, socially distanced resume, and have some training and get you down, because I know it's quite infectious to hear your passion. And I think especially with the organisations that usually come to my training, they can actually hear directly and they can book with you directly. But like Brian says, and like you say, you know, you can still offer that even in lockdown. We can still get that information out there. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for explaining all of that to me. If there's any other resources that you think might be useful, email that to me and I'll put those up as well. And also I'll also if anyone's got any questions, or if you want to get in contact with Brian, you can contact me directly as well. So thank you so much, Brian. Have you got a really busy day now?
I've got a few presentations to do, which is great. I mean, it's working from home. I think, like all of us, has been a bit of a challenge with real life intruding and washing machines and dogs barking in the background. But no, really good. In fact, there's just one more point, if I could make, Diane.
Of course, go for it, please.
You just sparked my memory there when you're talking about resources. If people have a look on our website, there is a page that says NCDV shop. If you click on that link, there's a load of stuff on there which is all free. So people can go on, they can order posters, leaflets, handouts. So you can have these in your in your centre or hung up on the wall. There's also pens and mugs, and the reason we do it is doing a big advertising campaign is expensive. So you're not going to see us on the TV or in newspapers. We found our best way of displaying what we do is by people we've spoken to who become our advocates. So if somebody picks up your mug or steals your pen, and that starts a discussion which then leads to somebody getting the help that they need, then that's what we're all about. And we found that works really well. So if people want to go onto the website and order some stuff, then be my guest. You're welcome to take as much as you like.
Oh, that's brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for your time. And all I can say is keep up the great work. Hopefully we'll be in contact really soon. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for your time, and good luck, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So like I said, guys, any additional information that you need in regards to Brian's work, please email me if you've got any questions. If you'd like him to come down and talk to your organisation and have a Zoom meeting with any